MLS Aces Podcast. This is your host, Tom Sweezy, once again joined by Jason Vevang for another glorious playoff edition of the podcast. I'm back into my nice robotic
slideshow ways.
Yeah, exactly, right? So if you're watching on YouTube or anywhere else, sorry about that. But if you're listening, or you can still hear me fine. The clarity of my voice is fine. The podcast is still fine. It's just Jason's
No
there.
one will know on the podcast. If you're listening to this, they're like, what are you guys talking about? This is great.
And if you're watching, my backpack just fell. That has all my equipment for the podcast in it. So thankfully I'm using it. So all good. But yeah, if you're watching this, I don't imagine you're sitting here really like dedicating yourself to watching Jason and I's faces. I imagine you're doing something in the background. So I probably sound fine to you as well there. But this is episode 312. We do have more playoff news to talk about. We do have obviously more just MLS news to talk about in general. But Jason, I want to start it off super quickly by just wishing two congratulations out there. First off, your NWSL champions, the Orlando Pride, an absolute fun NWSL final, watching it this past weekend. And I mean, Banda's an absolute like baller, bro.
So
like
good. Yeah.
She's insane. Like,
that was a fun game. That was a very fun game.
I wish that obviously, like, reports started coming out after, quotes started coming out after, all that fun stuff. But like, I wish Trinity Rodman was fully healthy. She came out and she was saying that, she has been dealing with like a back injury or something since the Olympics this summer. So, that kind of sucks. But other than that, I mean, I think that the final was very good, very fun.
Mm-hmm.
The other congratulations that I want to throw out there is to the Colorado Springs Switchbacks winning the USL Championship title. That means every league in the United States has a champion awarded to them for 2024 besides Major League Soccer, and obviously that's what the meat of of all of this is going to be today. So, Jason, do we want to talk about just super quick how you're absolutely dominating me in the playoff picks?
I am doing quite well. We can brush past it. We don't need to tell the people. It's let's just say, if you had been betting on my picks, you'd be doing pretty well.
You'd be killing it. I mean, even if you didn't even go based off like favorites or not favorites or odds or anything like that, you're up money, period. So I will just say, I know you want to brush past it. I don't want to jinx you, but you are 10-2 on the picks. That is unbelievable.
It is nice. It is getting harder, and I think I was pretty surprised that I went 4 for 4 on that last round. Genuinely, I was like, I feel like I'm getting away with something here. So we'll see. We have 2 more matchups. I guess 3 more matchups total to pick, including the final. So
I can't even.
I mean, at worst, I could be 10-5, which is great.
Which is you're doubling the amount of times you're wrong. So that's unbelievable.
I could be 13-2, which at that point, like, I'm going to buy the lottery ticket.
At that point, Jason's getting the call up to a much bigger MLS podcast than this, because clearly I can't predict shit. I'm 5-7 so far with these playoffs, but whatever. It is what it is.
It's still the 2 that I've lost are the 2 that I think everybody lost. Like at this point, I don't even feel bad about those.
I mean, if you want to remove the Columbus and Miami losses, I'm 5-5. I'll take it.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm 10-0 and you're 5-5. Let's do that.
That's it, right? Awesome. Let's keep it moving. Let's talk about some of the MLS news before we dive into the playoffs. Kind of similar to how we did it last week. And the one thing that I just want to quickly confirm from last week, because last week it was a report from Tom Bogert, now it is official, but FC Cincinnati have signed a DP striker in Kevin Denkey from Belgian club Cercle Bruges. This is the record-breaking MLS signing. I'm at $16.5 million, which is insane that we're even at the point right now that this league is, making double-digit million-dollar signings from its owners and from its clubs, and it's crazy. And shout out to the Cincinnati front office for that. But just as we talked about it a little bit last week, but just as kind of a quick little recap for anyone who might have missed that or don't really know or didn't hear that last week, I guess. But he's a 23-year-old Togo international striker. He won the 2023-2024 Belgian Pro League Golden Boot last season with 27 goals. He's had a pretty, short not international, just club career at this point. At 23 years old, he has 67, goals and 22 assists in 190 games. I really like this tool. I'm finding out a lot about soccer tools online, Jason. There's this website FB Ref that do other things for like baseball, American football, all that stuff. Exactly, right? Yeah. They have the soccer version of it where you can pull up a player's profile and they give you like comparisons to like who's globally is comparing at the same level as that player in the last 12 months. And Denkey's comparison on there was the likes of Salomon Rondon for Pachuca, when we've seen Salomon Rondon tear MLS clubs apart in the last year. Miguel Borja down in River Plate, and Chicho Arango for RSL. So he's
which Chicho Arango? First half or second half?
I guess we're just talking full calendar year, but
call up FB Ref and say which one are you comparing him to? Because
which version of this, But at the end of the day, look, the signing's huge for the number. I think the signing's huge for the profile, and I think obviously for Cincinnati, it's a big signing. They needed a high-level DP striker, and this puts them right back in the Supporter Shield conversation, if you ask me. Obviously, there's a long off season ahead, but still.
I think I'm still I do like this. I think obviously those comparisons are very good players who we've, like you said, seen have some success in MLS or against MLS competition, but I am still heavily on the what happens with Lucho Acosta, and whatever that answer is will dictate how I feel about this team going into next season. Because whether they have him or have replaced him, a lot of what they do is, I feel like a broken record, so I don't want to go too far into it. But that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for that, contract extension, move on, what's happening, and that's all I care about.
I agree.
Also, this is a good move. I do like. This is a hole they needed to fill. This is a perfect thing.
I've seen this trend go around on social media, whether it's Blue Sky. Again, we are on Blue Sky at MLS Aces on Blue Sky, and Jason, you're on it at Jason Vevang. Or on Twitter, obviously. But do you think it's a little shocking that the new league record signing in terms of obviously dollars spent is coming from Cincinnati and not like a Miami, LA, New York club?
Am I upset about it? What do you mean?
Not like, are you like
I don't know. I don't think I'm that surprised. I think FC Cincinnati has proven that they're willing to invest and have like a very strong soccer culture. But I also think there's most expensive signing in MLS history is somewhat of a gray answer, right? Because Messi has money coming from
fair.
Right. So at the end of the day, you could argue that is still the most expensive in terms of any one player coming. But I think if you're FC Cincinnati fan, you should be thrilled by that. We are totally an investment. I know it doesn't always translate though. Chicago was paying Shaqiri an insane amount of money, and obviously that didn't do anything.
He just had a hat trick though, so watch out.
He left and he's happy again. Apparently, he just hates it here. Okay, whatever, man. I'm done. I don't know. I don't really have that strong of opinion on it. I think it's good for them. I just don't think it matters that much to me. Where if you're going to invest, it's kind of about owners and your managers and the front office that you build and the culture that you want to be a part of. Should LAFC maybe have this? Maybe, because they really do want to be this, but they've been able to find super prolific players for maybe less money than some of these others. It's not always about the price tag.
No, I know. I agree with that, and I agree with most of that. I think at the end of the day, you do want to see your club ambitiously spending, and that's where I have to give
big markets. You're right. Big markets should be having. They should have more money.
They should, right? But I guess then the argument is also these big markets also have other ways to attract players, maybe for a little bit of a cheaper compared to Cincinnati needing to spend
LAFC is getting players just because it's LA.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Miami. No one's in Europe going, I could see myself in Cincinnati. No offense to Cincinnati. I'm sorry. There's no hate. I'm just saying, if we're going to compare cities, I don't think people in Europe are dying to go to Ohio.
I know Cincinnati fans, and Cincinnati fans are very loud on social media, Jason.
Love
If I clip
their
that,
club. Hey,
and post that.
Then clip this. I love it, man. They love their club. They love their club, and they deserve it. I like the investment.
All right, let's move on. We gave the Denkey signing some love here. Let's just quickly talk about some more end of season roster decisions that have come out. Again, we're not deep diving into this at the same level, but Jason, has there been any in the last week? I know I have some written out here, but has there been any in the last week that have kind of stood out to you as like, ooh, interesting piece or just interesting storyline in general?
I think the Philly moves have been kind of interesting. All those players are pretty decent players in MLS, or have been at times, right?
Yeah.
Like Leon Flach, Jack Elliott, Alejandro Bedoya, and Adinarin. Like all of those players, I don't feel like. I mean, maybe Bedoya's towards the end of the twilight of his career a little bit, but I think the others definitely could find a role somewhere. I mean, a lot of the names that you have listed on here are players that I feel like aren't done in MLS or have a decent amount more to give in some cases. So
Yeah,
I think, and sometimes, the club maybe doesn't see a future with a certain player, but somewhere else might. Like Yaw Yeboah out of Columbus.
Oh, 100%.
He's going to another club and he's going to be good somewhere else. It's just like, it's sort of situational based on the clubs and who's in and who's out. But it's like, there's a lot of teams.
Yaw Yeboah was scoring an MLS Cup not too long ago. Like he was the starting left wing back option.
Minutes, yeah. Like, there's guys on this list that someone's going to be very happy to pick up.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Flach, Jack Elliott, like you mentioned, I feel like they could pretty much probably walk their way into any, I may not say starting 11. Jack Elliott probably starting 11, but
in the
I would
bottom
say
half of the league,
18.
Like the bottom 15 teams, they're walking on.
Bro, if I'm San Diego and I need a starting center back that's experienced in MLS, Jack Elliott's a name I'm looking at. I mean, he's been Tim Parker, Xavier Arreaga. I mean, like
guys who have been there. Yaw Yeboah?
I mean, Yaw Yeboah, Matt Doyle just put out this morning on Blue Sky that Yaw Yeboah is a name to kind of check out because he was a former Right to Dream Academy kid, and obviously Right to Dream, they're the primary ownership group of San Diego, so that is a clear connection there. And
I would love that move for San Diego.
Yeah, hey, bringing in experienced guy still in his prime, starting wing back who's been a nice converted wing back in Major League Soccer. So I like it. We mentioned a lot of names there. Obviously, the big one, Luis Suarez, he's back for 2025, not on a DP deal. That's big for Miami. That means the Neymar conversation is only going to happen more and more heading into 2025. Atlanta United bringing back Brad Guzan. You're on mute, Jason. You're still on mute, sir.
I'm on mute. Yeah.
There you go.
Oh man, it's one of those days. Okay. The Brad Guzan in Atlanta. I was going to ask if you are surprised by that. Like,
a little bit. Yeah, a little bit because Garth Lagerwey came out because someone specifically asked. I don't remember who it was. I'm sorry to which reporter it was. But they asked Garth Lagerwey about the decision to bring Brad Guzan back, and Lagerwey's answer was he won us the series against Miami, which isn't. It's an interesting take because you're also seeing Rob Valentino come out on social media and wish his goodbyes to the club. So it's. You could argue that Valentino was a key part to it.
That had more to do with it. I don't know. I agree. Guzan was incredible, but he's 40 years old. This is a good Atlanta team. This is a team that's going into next season with serious expectations.
100%, because they're also going to have. I'm going to just update our team
load of money.
Our team spreadsheets really quick. They're also going to have 2 DP spots open for 2025. It's Miranchuk, and then they're most likely going to be bringing in 2 DP attackers to go along with this. It also doesn't really make sense as to why you brought Josh Cohen in from he was playing Champions League minutes over in Europe. You brought him in. It's not like he's super young. You brought him in last year, right? So it's like, I don't know. Maybe they thought
Maybe they
Brad
want
was in.
on to just, hey, we're gonna keep him, pay him, he deserves it. Just not start him.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Whatever. That's just to me that it's a interesting point.
I'm
I don't know
if Giacomakis is there all year, he wins.
The last one I just want to quickly mention, and this is more of a joke answer, is Victor Wanyama. I mean, some people might have forgotten that he was still on CF Montreal's roster.
Myself included, pretty much.
He did pop up at a Champions League game a few weeks ago, though, so that's fun. But Wanyama is out. That means that Montreal does not have a DP on their roster at all anymore, because he was eating up a DP contract.
And
now,
basically, they didn't have a DP on their roster before either. So
I mean, that's also 100% fair. So I was gonna say now, like, that doesn't mean with Montreal's roster construction history that things are going to change. I'm going to say most likely there is still no DP on this roster heading into 2025, but I don't know.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they get one in there, but yeah, this is the opposite of investment over here.
Exactly. They
actually are trying not to win, apparently.
No, I think they're trying to win. I just think they're doing it
their own way.
To me, the ownership group is like, what young players can we just collect around the league and either move to Bologna? Obviously, Joey Saputo owns Bologna over in Italy, or can we move and make a profit on for a sale, and that's just how Montreal's ownership does it. And that's, the fan base is incredible up there, and I think they deserve more from an ownership group, but that's, that is what their owners decide to do. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to sit here and talk shit about owners on this podcast. No, I will do it. I just don't want to do it right now. There's a lot of other stuff to get to.
There's a lot, yeah.
So let's talk about the coaching carousel that has happened in the last week, because holy shit. Let's talk about the two departing coaches. So the Vancouver Whitecaps have parted ways with Vanni Sartini as their manager. Sartini went 62 wins, 33 draws, and 53 losses in 148 games in charge of the Whitecaps. He obviously, won the last 3 Canadian championship titles back to back to back. Getting the Whitecaps team into CONCACAF Champions League or CONCACAF Champions Cup positions with those trophies. But this one, I have mixed feelings on, Jason. I know we texted about it a little bit. I put it out there on social media a little bit, but I think this is a bad move.
Honestly, sorry, you're doing the slideshow thing. I didn't know you were done talking.
Sorry.
Honestly, I think I texted you and I was like, I'm surprised. I don't really like it. And the more I've had to think about it, the less I like it. It just keeps getting worse for me. I don't understand. I personally, first of all, when you put out his record and 148 games, that's a pretty good record. Also, that's a long time to be there. And he was genuinely, what I think I said in text is he was genuinely building something there. And I think they had slowly started to get better. You saw the impact he was able to make. We talked about the way they set up and actually started to give LAFC some problems there. It's crazy to me. And I want to maybe hear more from them or him. And is he going to go, if he immediately goes and turns over and signs somewhere in Europe at a big club, then I kind of get it. Or if this was a mutual decision, I kind of get it. But if this was just Vancouver saying we want to move on because results aren't good enough or something, I personally disagree with it. And I think as someone who's a fan of a team who's been through many coaches, and I know there's tons of clubs in MLS who have been through a lot of coaches that you could just look at and just say, you know what, they've missed on a coach so many times. Having one that I feel is not a miss is a huge luxury in this league. And This is kind of that person. I think, I don't know. I don't know. Unless there's another reason for this that they can justify it, or he wanted out or something, I'll be fine with it. But with what I know now, I hate this.
Yeah. There's two ways that I look at it. I think it's like on the field perspective, right? Which matters. It's important. The results matter on the field. Vanni Sartini has had the Whitecaps playing their best ever soccer performance wise in their MLS era, right? Obviously they had the run back, back in the day, but like I'm talking modern day soccer, right? Vanni Sartini deserved to be the manager of this club moving forward because of that on the field performance, winning playoff games that have never happened before in the Whitecaps history. So that's one. Obviously, I think to me, this feels a little bit more behind the scenes. And I know that their sporting director, Axel Schuster, he's come out and he was very emotional in his press conference, kind of, talking about the departure of Sartini. And there's been really doesn't seem like there's no bad blood between Sartini and Schuster. So I don't know if maybe this was just like if this was an actual mutual decision, which, I think sometimes that just gets thrown around. But I mean, I guess as more comes out, as I and you kind of do deeper dives on it, we'll kind of maybe sit there and form our opinions a little bit more. The only thing that I can really sit here and say against Vanni Sartini is that this is a team that, they've done spending. They had 3 full DPs. They had 3 full U22 initiative spots used. Like they went out and they acquired guys like Brian White, Fafa Pico, Ali Ahmed, guys to also bolster this team outside of those roster designation spots. And it still wasn't good enough. So maybe the club is at a point where it's like, okay, we need someone who's going to elevate us past this point. I'm not saying that that's right or I necessarily agree with that, but I'm saying maybe that's the only argument that I can really sit here and kind of come up with at this point. But Vanni Sartini, I hope that he gets another job somewhere. I hope it's within MLS because I want to see this guy, getting down and making certain gestures towards refs and taking his shirt off in interviews because he is the biggest character as far as a manager in Major League Soccer goes for absolute certain. So I like Sartini. I think he deserves a shot somewhere. And I think wherever he goes next, he will definitely make an impact. It's sad that I think it's coming now from the Whitecaps because I think 2025 could have been a ton of fun, but maybe it would have been a lot more of the same. Who knows? I don't know if you have anything you want to add there.
No, I mean, I feel similarly. I feel like, though, I can't really fault him for losing to LAFC. Should they maybe have not been the 8th seed? I mean, I think you could maybe argue that the talent is better than an 8 seed, but I think with what he did, beating Portland 5-0, arguably, putting LAFC in a pretty tough spot in that first round. I don't know. Personally, I think he did enough to keep his job. I mean, I definitely think he did enough to keep his job. So
for sure. Let's turn the page to a manager that I don't think did enough to keep his job, and I'll take this one.
I'm muting myself and letting you go.
I'll take this one a little bit. New York City FC, they parted ways with their manager Nick Cushing. If you include his time as interim manager when he got brought up from assistant to interim manager, Cushing went 40 wins, 27 draws, and 40 losses in 107 games as manager of the club. The longest tenured New York City FC manager of all time, by the way, which is weird when you think about the names that this club has had on the sideline. He also did win a 2022 Campeones Cup while he was interim manager with this club. So he did bring home a trophy for us. One of 2 trophies in the club's history. I am more than okay with Nick Cushing gone as manager of New York City. There's a certain level that I feel like the fans of this club have New York City at in terms of the perspective of U.S. soccer and North American soccer. And I don't think we've always seen that with this club, or I think we haven't really seen that with this club in the last 18 to 24 months. I think honestly, since the MLS Cup victory, it's been a slight just downhill trajectory. This club has spent a lot of money. When you look at the expenditure in the last 2 years, when the price tag around Agustin Ojeda, the Julian Fernandez, Munsef Bakrar, Jovan Mijatovic, and so on. I mean, there's like $20 million spent between like 4 players right there that weren't getting a ton of minutes over the course of the season, that weren't on the field against the Red Bulls when you're down a goal, when you're down 2 goals, and not that price tag equals performance on the field, but if you're spending that much money and investing that much money, you like to see these players get a chance, even if they're young, to go out and score. I think that Cushing was brought in as a CFG guy to develop and continue to develop, bring in younger talent from South America, Europe, whatever, to develop them, and then maybe continuously move them on in the CFG format and continue the winning ways that City Football Group likes all their clubs globally, including Manchester City, to do. And he didn't do that, and it was very inconsistent. There was really high points of 2024, but there was also some really, really low points. And obviously, I think losing to your biggest rival for a chance to go to the conference finals in the MLS Cup playoffs is a reason why you get fired, especially after a mixed meh season. Nick Cushing did a lot. He was a big player motivator, and I enjoyed comments from him. I enjoyed videos from him, and I think players are probably going to be left with positive feelings about Cushing. I just think it's fair. The time's come. Let's move on, and let's have someone who is going to elevate and I think play some of these younger kids that were obviously brought into New York City for a reason. Again, the Julian Fernandezes, the Augustino Hedas, the Jovan Mijatoviches of the world. This team was good enough to do more, I think, talent-wise, and they didn't, and that's where I will leave that. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add there, Jason.
10 out of 10, no notes.
No notes, got it. Love it. I
personally agree. I think, lose to your in-state rival, in-state in quotes, rival at home. Yeah, it's not a good look. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see where, because
I think there's good options for and it's an attractive team / club environment.
It's attractive, right? Because of the connection to City Football Group, you do well. There's maybe chances for promotions or whatnot, right?
It's also New York,
and New York too, right? That's always fun. And there's a stadium coming in 2027, and all of this stuff. So there's a lot
also,
there.
I think a decent amount of coaches that are either available or going to be available that I would put above Nick Cushing. No offense.
See, the thing is, though, and I don't want to go down a New York City rabbit hole too long, but the thing is, New York City's ownership group or front office or however they're making determinations, because obviously CFG is a big part of all of it. They have not gone with a non-CFG guy since the initial hire of Jason Kreis as manager. So part of me is like, Jim Curtin's sitting right there.
Ezra Hendrickson.
I mean, Ezra's doing great things with St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I mean, I'd be happy with it, but
he's like international coaching. It's probably a little more fun.
He's doing his thing, right? And for the nation he was born into, so I understand that. But look, I'm a big guy. I think Jim Curtin was a great idea fit for Atlanta, and he still is. But I think just as much for New York City, you have a club that spends money, a club that likes youth development. Jim Curtin, he had all of those things at Philly besides the money spending, and New York City will give you the money to spend. So that's just my thing. I think Jim Curtin should be the next manager of New York City. Will it happen? Probably not. Let's keep it moving, Jason. St. Louis City, they've hired their next manager in Olof Mellberg. Mellberg is coming over from Sweden, where he was managing. I'm not even going to attempt to say that or butcher that.
Probably like Brahma Pokarna.
Yep, you nailed it. There you go, Jason. That you.
I really hope that's close. Honestly, it's probably not even near, but that's kind of how it sounds.
He was managing a club in the Swedish top division. Mellberg has managed 182 games across 3 different clubs in his career. And with his most recent club that he was managing over in Sweden, this was his second stint. But in the first stint with the club, he did win the Swedish second and division titles with them. So he got this club up to the top division, which is a very impressive kind of career trajectory there. But in 182 career games managed, he has a record of 77 wins, 43 draws, and 62 losses. Jason, anything high level here? I talked a lot about Cushing, so I'm going to let you.
I mean, I think high level for me, I'm not always super thrilled about a manager that has pretty much zero knowledge or experience of MLS coming in, because much like it is with players coming over from Europe, it's not that easy to adjust to the style and to the difference in culture and size of the country even in MLS. And maybe it's a little bit easier because if as a manager, because you can kind of instill your beliefs, what you want
Mhm.
your players to do. That's probably a little easier. I think he also in this situation has a pretty solid team that he's inheriting already. So player signing wise, he's in a pretty good situation. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is a team that I think should be competing next year and should have those expectations. So he won, you know, 2 division titles in lower divisions, which is great. I personally don't watch the Swedish first first league or whatever. I don't know what it's even called. Swedish Premier League.
I think it's the Allsvenskan, if I'm
Okay.
that,
Yep.
you
Yeah,
know,
I
I
didn't
think
know
it's
what it
that.
was called. Anyway, I don't know how it's necessarily going to translate, but
Yeah.
I like the fact that he's won before. He clearly can get the most out of his players at certain levels. But I
Yeah.
just think coming from a European league to MLS is a lot bigger of a jump than I think a lot of people realize. So.
For sure. I agree with that. The thing that does interest me here though is right is, you know, obviously St. Louis didn't give you know, a long tenure to their previous manager, right? If they really feel like that you know Mellberg, this new manager, is one that can kind of be a long-term project because he's proven in the past that with enough time he'll win league titles and he'll create a culture of winning. I think then I understand that and it makes sense because he's proven it before in the past. And if you're going to give him a little bit of a long stretch here to build his project, then I think he can find that success in Major League Soccer. In addition to what you're saying of it's going to take some time for him to just learn the league, learn the roster rules, travel, players, all of that, right? So that's one. And then the only other thing is like it's not that surprising that they went into, you know, is Sweden in Scandinavia? I don't know.
It is.
So thank you. So it's not that surprising that they went into Scandinavia. Obviously, the players that come into this roster under Lutz Van and Steel and this ownership group, they have ties, a lot of them, to the German second division or, you know, Scandinavian leagues, right? Like Sweden, Norway, all that fun stuff, right? So there's a lot of those players on this roster. He might be familiar with some of these players ultimately at the end of the day. So I think that it all makes sense. I just hope that they give him a long leash to build because I think that's what's going to give St. Louis the long-term success, not just another roster flip, coach flip in 24 months, whatever it is.
I mean, that's something I would preach with pretty much. I feel like I preach every single time a new coach comes into any club. Like, you have to give them time. If you're not willing to give them, in my opinion, it should be close to 2 full years, 2 full seasons. But you know, I think there's certain scenarios where there's teams that probably have very high expectations. If you inherit LAFC and you're fighting for the wooden spoon, you shouldn't be there. But like realistically, most new coaches should have their time, should get a window or two to fully make their mark in kind of show the front office what they're willing to put in and what they're kind of moving towards. So any new coach I personally think needs, I mean, maybe outside of the next one we're going to talk about, time to work it through.
I was gonna say, that leads perfectly into maybe a contradictory point here. But Inter Miami, they did not waste too much time in the post Tata Martino era, and they have hired Javier Mascherano as their next manager. Obviously, an Argentina and Barcelona legend in his own playing career, but Mascherano will depart his role as an Argentina national team youth manager, where he was managing both the U23s and U20s over the course of the last few years. So I was incorrect. I went onto Transfermarkt and they said he had 2 senior national team games that he managed. I thought that was just like, an interim role, something like that. That was actually the Olympic roster that he was managing that I forget kind of counts as senior national team stuff, but whatever. So if you want to count his time at the Olympics, he won 2 games and lost 2 games in his 4 games there. But in a combination of his time with the U23s and the U20s, he had a record of 26 wins, 10 draws, 10 losses. So Mascherano obviously heavily trusted for a very long period of time in the Argentinian national team youth setup. And obviously him, that's still playing a factor into the larger national team that just won a World Cup as well. But I think that's not the point probably to talk about. The point probably to talk about is this is a Barcelona boy. Messi, definitely had his stamp of approval on this. He was the one name we didn't really talk about last week, when we were bringing up Xavi and everything like that. But Jason, Mascherano to Inter Miami, it's not too surprising.
I don't like it, though. I'll sit here and say, so I was trying to find, comparisons of this, and I really could only find one, but it's from a different sport. So I don't want to go over it too long. But in the NBA, when Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie teamed up on the Brooklyn Nets,
yes,
they forced out Kenny Atkinson, who currently is coaching the Cleveland Cavaliers, who they're killing it, right? Good coach. Forced him out for their buddy, Steve Nash, and it went down in flames, right? It did not do well, okay?
Made me happy as a Knicks fan, but yes.
Yeah, but so going, away from that, you get the gist of it, listeners.
Yes.
If you have no knowledge about basketball, a bunch of friends hired their friend as a coach, basically, forced it to happen. I feel this is kind of similar, and it worries me a little bit. And at the end of the day, it's Messi, and if Messi's happy, does it really matter? It's a little bit different because Messi is so good that at this point you're just doing whatever you need. This is the Messi era. When he's gone, then you rebuild. But for now, I still just feel like this team needs good coaching, even with their stars, right? And I think we noticed that this year. Even with the best players, and a lot of these guys are just incredible players, it doesn't always work out perfectly. And it didn't, I think you look at that Atlanta loss in a 3-game series, in any series in sports, the better team should be winning the series. The longer the series is, the more likely the better team will probably win. In my opinion. I don't know if you agree.
No, I 100% agree with that.
And I think when you look at this, coaching really matters. And I know they have Messi. I know they have Suarez. Sure, there's rumors about Neymar. The team is stacked. But at the end, the coach matters a hell of a lot. In the strategy and the practices and the conditioning, all of that really matters. And I don't know how it might work, right? But I don't know how strict Mascherano is going to be when he's got a bunch of his buddies on the team.
I know that there was reports coming out that Tata Martino was arguing with a few of the, I hate to just call them the Barcelona boys, but that group of 4, for a large portion of, during the season, especially during the MLS Cup playoff run and stuff like that. So I understand that existed, and maybe that. I think that's not maybe. I think that probably adds to the stress of this job and what makes this job difficult. And it's probably a reason why maybe Tata Martino was like, yo, I need a bounce. This is stressful. Mexico, the national team job was stressful. I can't do this shit anymore. I get that. And I think that's 100% fair for Tata. It was an absolute no-brainer that Lionel Messi was going to have a decision on who the next manager for this club would be. I texted this to you yesterday. I don't think any player is above the badge, and I think that should include Lionel Messi. Now, it gets a little bit more difficult for that argument when he is the greatest player of all time, when he is going to be a future owner of the club, and all of that's pretty much put out there, right? So that's where it gets a little bit more black and white, and there's a gray area there. So Messi was going to have an impact on this. And that's where, obviously, many people like us were talking Xavi, and I think Javier Mascherano does make sense to that profile as well. Can I see this just being 5-6 of the best Barcelona players of all time kind of just melding their brains together, and everyone's kind of just like a player coach, and there's a ton of success because these guys obviously killed it this past season and will continue to kill it, and Messi's on the field 100%. I can see that. Can I also see this blowing up in flames a little bit when Mascherano's, trying to maybe put down the hammer a little bit and Messi's looking at him like, fuck you, probably, I can also see it that way. This should be successful if Mascherano is allowed to act as a manager, and these guys, even if it's not in private, and in private all the Barcelona boys are talking and that's how they're coming up with their decisions, but if in front of the rest of this team, the young players on this team and everything like that, Messi, Busquets, Suarez, they're all like sitting there listening and allowing Mascherano to be the boss, then I think that's fine, because you have to set that tone in the locker room. But I think this will be fine on the field. On the field, they'll still be successful. They'll still be one of the best teams in the league. They'll still be contenders for MLS Cup and the Shield and all that stuff. I'm just a little bit concerned about the tone that it sets off the field. And I think that's my biggest thing. And for the long-term success of the club there.
I agree. I think like when it comes down to it, it's can he hold all these players accountable to the same level? And I think when it comes to coaching, I haven't coached, right? So like, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm definitely right, but it feels to me, and I've been on many teams, like all the players need to be treated at somewhat of the same level. Sure, everyone knows Messi's the best player on this team. Pretty much everyone knows that he's the best player of all time. Okay. But at the end of the day, if I'm sitting there and I've got to run 2 laps around the whole field because I fucked up, and if Messi does the same thing, is he running 2 laps? Like,
exactly.
I think this stuff, when you have your friend managing, is maybe a little bit harder to kind of hold these players accountable than it is if Tata's managing. And I think actually them coming out and saying there was probably some arguments and stuff behind the scenes, I almost feel like that might be kind of a good thing. It might have actually been a little bit better to have someone who will hold all these players accountable, who will say, I know you're 40 or 38 or whatever.
Yeah.
Keep going, like this isn't just a summer break. This is a full season. We want to win. It clearly, you can't just win on pure talent, right? Like otherwise we wouldn't be looking at the playoffs right now with no number 1 seeds in a 2 4s and a 7, right?
Yeah, there's no 1 through 3 seeds left in the playoffs.
If you could just say, oh, they have the best players, they're going to win everything, then why would we play? Like the whole point is, it's just not how it works. And so I feel a little nervous that like I just want a manager who's going to be able to hold them all to the same standard. I don't feel like that's what this is.
I agree. And look, I'll say my last piece to it here of just simply, it'll work. This team's good enough. They know each other well enough. It'll work to an extent. But that extent, I think, could be the difference of winning a trophy in 2025 or not, right? Maybe they win one and, that'll be 3 trophies in 3 years and we're all great and this is amazing.
If it's not MLS Cup, though, I'm not impressed.
I don't disagree. If it's not CONCACAF Champions Cup or MLS Cup, I'm not impressed. I'll throw those 2 together. But yes, all right. That is the last of it. We'll have plenty more time to talk about it. We're already 40 minutes in. Jesus Christ. Okay, let's go. We're gonna talk about each conference semifinal game and then preview the conference final. I think that makes the most sense.
Okay.
So LAFC versus the Seattle.
One conversation, definitely.
Yes, exactly. LAFC versus the Seattle Sounders. Sounders take a 2-1 victory on the road in extra time. Jordan Morris with the game winner in the 109th minute. I mean, this was a hell of a game. Like, this was the Seattle Sounders defending for their absolute lives. Stephen Fry once again showing up as MLS Cup playoff Stephen Fry, one of the best goalkeeping performances we see every single year. And I don't know. The defense here just honestly very much impressed me. I think Jackson Reagan was incredible. John Bell was incredible. Yaimar, I know he went out injured after like the 70th or something like that. He was incredible, I thought. And ultimately, at the end of the day, Jordan Morris has been at the best. We've quietly seen Jordan Morris playing his best soccer of his career, and
which they absolutely need.
they needed, and he was the difference. And that is, I want to give the Sounders the love because they deserve the win in this matchup 100%.
Yeah, I really want to talk about this in terms of going forward versus the Galaxy. So can we maybe just also mention the Galaxy's game?
Yes, we can go into that as well. Is there anything you want to actually, just super quick, I guess, is there anything you want to say about LAFC before we do that?
I don't really even know what to say about this team. Like I feel like the expectations are so high, and this is obviously kind of like I hate saying the word failure when it comes to
this is a bad season. Can I say that?
At the end of the day, it is a bad season. They ended up getting that 1 seed, which is huge, and winning the conference. But I don't know. I'm kind of disappointed in how it all played out. I feel like they were maybe trying too much. I don't know. The team is still so good. Like, it's so hard to look at LAFC and be like, nope, they just fell. I mean, I think Seattle just outplayed them.
100%.
Like, I think Seattle just outplayed them on the defensive end, which they've pretty much done across the board all season.
Yeah, best defense in the league.
And then I think they got the goals that were needed. And I think Jordan Morris finding that one moment of just brilliance, which with a beautiful turn and score, I can't really hate or say anything bad about LAFC when it came down to the fact that this was a game of like literal inches.
I will say this bad about LAFC. I'll lay on the sword here. This was a team that, yes, won the U.S. Open Cup, that they took home a trophy and a title, and 25 other clubs in this league and their fan bases would probably love it and celebrate it and everything like that. But that is not enough for a club of what LAFC has said off the field that they want to be and what they've proven on the field.
And we talk about it every year, what they want to be.
Yeah, exactly, right? Because we talk about it because they say it and they prove it. Olivier Giroud was a failure, or has been a failure so far. I know we've been saying the word failure a lot in recent episodes, and I know you hate it, but I'm gonna sit.
I just don't love like the solidity of it. I don't even know if that's the right word.
He's been a failure so far. That is the asterisk.
Word failure.
I think
he came in mid-season. It's so hard. I was just talking about it with managers. It's so much harder with players, and we've seen it time and again. You can't just get a signing mid-season from Europe and just say, okay, do it.
Sure, but then why continuously shove him into the starting 11? And this is where I think Cherundolo failed.
Yeah, I would say
because you keep shoving him into the starting 11 when you were getting your best results, playing your best soccer, when Matthias Bogusz was playing as a false 9, or Kai Kamara was subbing in or starting as a replacement 9. You kept shoving Olivier Giroud into the starting 11 because you probably had to, and I understand that, but that is ultimately...
I don't understand that personally. This goes back to a similar conversation with the Mascherano hire. Like, I don't think just because it's Olivier Giroud and we know how amazing his career has gone, that we can just permanent marker him into the starting spot. I think what you're saying is 100% correct. They shouldn't. They can't do that. They need to ease him in a little bit longer. They need to expect a little bit more of a, and they should. This is a team that has made some really good signings. They should know that it takes a second. And I think when you had what they had with Bogusz, with, Kai Kamara, who's arguably one of the best scorers in MLS history for career-wise, I think you just need to keep players like that playing significant minutes.
I agree. And I will just, my last point about why I think LAFC ultimately didn't get the job done was I think the absolute refusing to break from that 5-man back. Like, it was not working at certain points. I think that 5-man back ultimately hurt Dennis Bouanga's production at the end of the day, because he's been good. Yes, he's been Denny Bouanga and he's been amazing, but he wasn't producing at the same level, and he wasn't going to do the same numbers as last year, but he wasn't producing even close to the same level and quality that I think we've seen. So I don't know. I don't like the 5-man back, or the whatever the fuck you want to consider that, a 5-2-3 or a 3-4-3. 3 or whatever. I don't love the formation. I don't love Giroud getting forced into the lineup, over and over again. And I think they wasted, what could have been a really fun season, could have been a double, and they didn't do it. So let's keep it moving though, and we'll talk about the Sounders in terms of next steps with them in the conference finals. But the other Western Conference matchup, LA Galaxy hosting Minnesota United, and I mean, this was the most fun time watching a game I think I've had in a very long time. Galaxy wins 6-2. Within the first 30 seconds, Ricky Push is putting the ball over the top to Gabriel Peck, and Peck is sliding it home. Joveljic is scoring. Kelvin Yeboah scored 5 minutes later. Joveljic is scoring 12 minutes after that, and then obviously just an onslaught of goals. Really just coming back and forth in this game, and I mean, you're performing well offensively, Jason, when you have 3 guys on a brace and you have 2 of those guys having 3 goal contributions in the game. Like, you're having fun when as a team when that is coming up in the box score.
They were flying high in that game, like just unbeatable at that point. Like it's fun to watch. It's every time they're on the ball, it's scary. Like any one of them can just go off or put the ball. Like, it's not even that they're all in really good scoring form. It's that they're all really connecting well. It's the passes getting into these guys. It's not just the goals, because the goals are very nice and a lot of them are very nice finishes, but it's the ability to get themselves and their other teammates into space and kind of play like they've been playing since they were 10 together.
Yeah, it feels like it does have a feeling of like kids who know each other well with a soccer ball at their feet, and they're just passing it around to their buddies, and they know where their buddies going to move.
Who's going to be where?
Exactly. That's what it is, and it's just so much fun. And just to kind of put a little piece on the Loons here, because I don't have much to say about them. Kelvin Yeboah is going to be a star in 2025. This team, I think, we said it 2 weeks ago, we said it last week, are outperforming expectations early of what this new front office and new head coach and everything like that, I think, probably expected in year one. This is going to be a good team moving forward, and I'm excited to watch them more, but they just ran into a buzzsaw of an attack of, Puig, Paintsel, Peck, Joveljic, and Royce, and everything in between. So
they didn't even look like, sure, the score is 6-2. It ends up being pretty bad, but I don't feel like they looked out of place, at least for some of this game. I don't know. I think what Eric Ramsey's been able to do is pretty incredible. If they were just even like a little bit higher in the standings, I personally think he should have gotten a look at Coach of the Year, because he came in and he just changed everything, and it's been so successful over there.
Yeah, he will be in the running next year for sure. I think Kelvin Yeboah will be in the MVP conversation next year as well. This is a new look Loons team. Unfortunately, like I said, they just ran into a really hot Galaxy team, and I think to talk about the Western Conference Final this upcoming weekend, number 2 LA Galaxy hosting number 4 Seattle Sounders. This is a historic matchup in the playoffs that we've seen in the past. We haven't seen for a very long time, and it's kind of cool to see this matchup once again in 2024. It has been an interesting season for both of these teams. It has been an interesting decade for both of these teams in the last, whatever, that's what a decade is, 10 years. The LA Galaxy currently flying high. They are scoring in bunches, 18 goals in their last 5. They have had success against the Sounders in 2024. The Sounders, they've had some, obviously, draws with the last round with Houston and everything like that, but they've been producing, they've been picking up big wins, and, they are the best defense in Major League Soccer in 2024. I think maybe the Crew were the only other argument. So you have a stellar fair. Sorry, Charlotte fans. You have a stellar high-flying attack going up against arguably the best defense in the league. I mean, this is,
What wins championships, huh?
defense. Hey, you're a Bears fan, right? You know what does. It's defense wins championships.
Unfortunately.
But are you sticking with that mantra in 2024 in this matchup?
So this is like kind of why I wanted to wait to talk about them, because I think as a whole, if you look at who Seattle has played this playoffs, right? So they played Houston, right? That is the second best defense outside of them in the Western Conference. Okay. So essentially, if you remove Seattle, that's they played the best defense they could play. Then they played LAFC and beat LAFC, which is the second best defense in the Western Conference. And so I think they're like 3 and 5 in the whole league, because I think Columbus and Charlotte actually this is goals against purely, basically, is what I'm using for this. That's impressive. It's not, because this is a defensive sided team. I think the biggest concern with Seattle has always been this season, can they outscore their opponents? Can they? And they're running up against a team that's incredibly hard to outscore, that has almost the opposite mentality, is we will outscore our opponent. Which we
will let you score 2 to put up 5.
Yeah, like I think this is like two opposites fighting in this matchup, which I think is awesome. I think it's going to be a good game. We're going to see what wins out, but I just wanted to highlight the fact that Seattle has been doing this against the best defensive teams in their conference. And that's how they've gotten here. And their defense has held strong, and they've gotten what they've needed on offense to get here, which I think is impressive in itself, because it just shows you that like they're going to play the easiest in quotes, like defense that they're about to go up against. And it's a pretty big drop off to LA Galaxy in terms of what they can do on that end. I think the biggest concern is obviously what we just talked about, and that's the fact that the Galaxy are literally like a machine at this point. Like 18 goals in 5 games is crazy. We're looking at over 3 goals a game. Can they do that in a one game against Seattle, who is built almost to defeat them? It's like these two teams were built to fight each other.
Yes, I think this is the classic matchup you talk about, right? This is, the Super Bowl a few years ago when it was Peyton Manning's offense against the Seattle Seahawks defense, right? Like this I don't know why that came to my brain, but it did. I typically go with the team with the best spine, and that typically leads to the team with the best defense. Is going to win the matchup, because I think we've seen that story constantly over the last modern 5
look
years
at
of MLS
themselves. Defense has been winning these matchups, goalkeeping and defense. We've, even in this last round, was it like 3 of the 4, or maybe it was 2 of the 4 that had the more shots on goal, the higher expected goals. Those teams are losing.
My only piece to that is this: I don't think the Sounders are scoring 4, 5, 6 goals. Sorry, the Galaxy are scoring 4, 5, 6 goals against the Sounders. I don't think the Sounders are scoring 4, 5, or 6 goals either. But I don't think
the Sounders are definitely not scoring 4 goals.
I don't think they're scoring more than 1, or maybe more than 2. I don't know, but the Galaxy are not going and putting up the stupid numbers they've been putting up against Minnesota and Colorado. I still think they will be goal dangerous, and I still think that they will put up multiple goals. I'm going to say 3 goals in this matchup. The reason why I'm picking the Galaxy and my concern for the Sounders is I don't think the Sounders have proven enough offensively over the last 5 games, or even if you just want to look at the playoffs, in these playoffs so far, to get the job done. Yes, they've played really good defenses, like you mentioned, Jason, in Houston and LAFC. In the Houston matchups, they were up a man for a majority of both of those games. The LAFC game, it took a Jordan Morris wonder turn hit top corner in extra time, tired legs type of goal to get that done. I don't know if the Sounders have enough up top. And, maybe I'm looking like an idiot come next week when we're recording this, because Jordan Morris goes off for a hat trick and Pedro de la Vega wakes up or whatever. But I just don't have enough confidence in the Sounders to get it done offensively to match, even if the Galaxy go out and only score 2, only because I think the Galaxy will get opportunities because this Sounders defense also hasn't seen an attack like this Galaxy attack. So I think the Galaxy win. I think it's a close game. I think this is a fun game. Again, I said it last week with the Sounders versus LAFC. If the Sounders win, I'm not surprised. I am just picking the LA Galaxy because they are a buzzsaw right now.
So this is fun because I'm picking Seattle.
It means you're going to be right.
I just think so. I know you said they haven't played anyone that's on the same level, and of course, like the Galaxy, I think had the most goals. They didn't actually, but they had a lot of goals, right? And their offense is crazy good. I don't feel like LAFC is that far of a drop off, if at all, to the Galaxy. Sure, the drop off in goals for so it's 63 goals for LAFC, 69 for the Galaxy. But the goals against is 43 for LAFC and 50 for the Galaxy. So you're looking at sort of a comparable difference, I guess.
But the form is completely different in what at least in my opinion, right? Of what the
what the Galaxy are doing right now is crazy. But also, we're looking at them against, and I think this still matters. And I think if we're going to look at the rounds of the playoffs, Colorado has arguably the worst defense in the league. One of them. They're in the bottom 7, and they were pretty injured. So I think winning, 9-1 in that is not, it is impressive. And I think form really matters, and I think confidence really matters, which is what that built. But I don't think it is as 9. You can't just look at the score in that. And I think
I agree.
There's a lot of context there. I think the Minnesota wins a lot better. Minnesota is a better team and a stronger team, I think, across the board than that Colorado team was towards the end of the season.
Minnesota just reminds me of the Sounders. I think the Sounders are a better version of it right now, but I just think the Sounders might put 2 across the board. Maybe. I don't think Seattle has a Kelvin Yeboah type guy, but
I just think the Sounders are built to play these type of teams. I think they were,
which is fair.
Like you're saying, that LAFC game, it took that Jordan Morris kind of final kick, tired legs. That's what they're built to do. It feels like to me. That's what this team wants. It wants these tight games. It wants these games kind of in the trenches where they're playing tough for 90 plus minutes if it goes longer. They want to tire the other team out. They want to just defend, make you work for everything you can do until you get tired. And they're going to still be, if they're hanging around, I think they know and are confident in what they're doing. And I also think experience here is pretty. There's a lot of experience on that Sounders team. Not that there isn't on the Galaxy. But, I don't know. I think the Galaxy. I mean, the Sounders are just kind of made for this sort of scenario. I think this team doesn't care. They don't look at the goals for the other team. They just go out there and they say, you know what? Everything you do, every step you take, you're working your ass off for. And there was a lot of pretty free goals against Minnesota that I don't think are going to happen against Seattle.
I agree with that. And that's why I think it's going to be a different game for sure. And look, I think everything you said is completely valid.
Hey, I'm sounding a lot more confident than I actually am.
the only final piece that I'll say, and we don't have to, go back and forth on this. If you have a piece to say back, please. I think the Galaxy have the best player left in the MLS Cup playoffs in Ricky Puig. And I think that is a big difference for this game and for potentially MLS Cup. That is my feeling there.
I would agree with that. If they get through this game, I'm not going to say it, but I feel pretty confident in their chances.
And look, the last fun fact that I saw about this game, the last time that these teams faced off in a Western Conference final was over a decade ago. Do you know who the goalkeeper was for the Seattle Sounders in that game?
Was it Stephen Fry?
It was Stephen Fry. That is unbelievable.
That one up easily.
That is unbelievable. Stephen Fry.
I said build the damn statue.
He's on a heater, and he deserves a statue, and he deserves it all.
If he has 9 saves in this game, Seattle's winning.
1,000%, yes. that I can agree with. All right, let's look at the two Eastern Conference games. New York City FC losing 2-0 to the Red Bulls at Citi Field, at home technically for New York City FC. Well, let's save the winning team for the conference
I was
final.
like, neither of these games are that fun to talk about.
Yeah, I'm just going to simply say this from an NYCFC perspective. You don't really have to add too much, Jason. I talked about it a lot with the Cushing firing, parting ways, whatever you want to word it. This is a team that was so up and down, so inconsistent. Which side of them were you going to see in that game, in that specific matchup, whatever it may be? There's a lot, I think, to take positive and a lot that I feel like to build upon and look forward to in 2025, especially if they get the hiring right. I just think there are some players that it's time to move on from, and that's simply what I'll say there. This is a two-faced team. New York City actually played really well in this game. Sometimes the ball just doesn't go in the back of the net, even when you're playing well and you get the chances for it. Red Bulls, they took advantage of opportunities, deserved winners, and I will give them that in the first ever edition of the Hudson River Derby in the MLS Cup playoffs. I don't know if you have anything you want to say about New York City, Jason, but we can move to the next one if you don't.
Finish your chances, please.
All right, Orlando City taking down Atlanta United 1-0 in the other Eastern Conference semifinal. Atlanta United, the magical run is over. That's all I really have to say here. It was incredible. Brad Guzan couldn't put up another, Guzan versus Miami performance, even though he was pretty good in this one as well.
Yeah, I think Atlanta still played very well defensively.
No,
I think it could have been a much worse scoreline.
It could have been, and I think Atlanta still played strong. I think Saba proves that he is a high-level player in this league. I think Moranchuk was kind of coming into his own. I still want to see some growth from him, but ultimately, I think the biggest thing we should say about this is Dax McCarty. I mean, it has been an honor, sir. That is where I'm at with it.
Incredible career. All right, well, should we just go into the matchup?
Eastern Conference Final. Orlando.
I feel like we're so much less enthused about this one. The other one was so exciting.
I'm less enthused about this one.
Too.
I'll be honest. This game is not going to be nearly as fun as the Western Conference Final. But number 4 Orlando City hosting number 7 New York Red Bulls. The game will be down in Orlando, which actually makes it fun because the Orlando crowd is pretty good. They come up in numbers. They're loud. I like that a lot about them. But historically, this season, the Red Bulls have Orlando City's number with a win and a draw. These have been two very close defensive games. There's only been 3 goals scored among these 2 games this season, so get ready for more defensive action in this Eastern Conference Final, folks. Orlando City, I'm going to say both of these teams, they've been good. They've gotten the job done. They haven't been that convincing over the last 5, over the playoff run, everything like that. So
I will say they've somewhat. I mean, I guess Orlando's kind of been the favorite in both of theirs. It's not like these have been easy opponents, though. I mean, like if we're gonna look at that Charlotte team was a very good 5 seed, right?
Yes, and Atlanta, who were hot.
Yeah.
There's also a part of it there, but Red Bulls, they took down Atlanta. Well, they lost to Atlanta. They had 3 games against Columbus that they went even 1-1-1 across the board with, and they beat New York City, which is a very inconsistent side. And all in that, allowing 7 goals, which a big part of this Red Bulls team has been hanging their hat on their defense. So there's that aspect too.
I do think that this Red Bulls team, like the one right now, current form, is a little bit more prolific in front of net than we had most of the season.
Well, because if I'm going to talk about how Ricky Puig is the best player left in the MLS Cup playoffs in the other matchup, I think Emil Forsberg is the second best player left in the MLS Cup playoffs in the Eastern Conference matchup. He's the best player in this game. But
Torres.
Emil Forsberg is better than Torres currently. I don't know where to take this because a lot of where my brain is like, I always think of the Red Bulls as this super strong defensive team, and that's what they're going to hang their hat on. But that's what they actually have done the opposite with recently because Emil Forsberg, his injection back into the starting lineup. And then I'm like, okay, Orlando, they have Facundo, they have Martin Ojeda, they have all these guys, right? So the offense is going to be there, and that's going to be sparking. They've only scored a goal a game in their last 5, and it's not. It's come from Facundo. There's been PKs and everything like that to kind of help bolster those numbers, but I don't know. I think this is going to be a 1-0 finish, and it could be a boring game in terms of style of soccer, not in terms of like, I think kind of the energy and everything around it, because it is a conference final.
That'll
But
be fun. The energy will be fun.
I don't know if this is going to be a woo attractive soccer. I'm so excited to sit down and watch this one.
No, I don't think it will be either. I think I have a tough time with this Rebels team because every time I watch them, I feel like I'm disappointed. Like, I feel like I come out of it like, how? Like, what am I like? What is this breaks everything I feel like I know is supposed to be.
Yeah, that's fair.
But they're pulling out results, and that's kind of all that matters. I don't know. I think, yeah, I think this is going to be a tight one. I do personally think that Orlando is a little better. Like I feel like the opponents they've played have made them look worse than they are, but I think that's more credit to the opponents they've beaten than them not being as good as they actually, should be.
That's
like,
fair.
I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like I almost feel like this is credit to Charlotte and Atlanta. Is like Atlanta, like you said, was flying high. Obviously, the signings they've made have made huge impacts. This wasn't like a crappy Atlanta team that floundered all season and made some major decisions. This was a much different team. And I think that Charlotte team, like, that's the second best defense in the entire league. That's a good team. That's a tough team to play against. So I think for me, like I look at the Orlando team and their results not as like quantitative, I guess, like more quality. Not blowouts, not Galaxy style domination, but quality kind of overcoming what they've had to play, which I think is sort of credit to what they've been able to do. Whereas it's almost crazy because like the Rebels beat Columbus, which I think we all agree is arguably the best team in the league.
Yeah, but Columbus was not coming in at the same level that we saw them all season long at, and then again, they lost to Atlanta and they beat a New York City side that I will openly say you don't know who was going to show up that day. So
I also feel like that was one of those games where I left going, I don't feel good about this as well.
I've gone back and forth all morning thinking about this. When we were texting even earlier, I was like, I really have to I need to, obviously we're recording soon. I have to come up with the determination here, a decision here. The Red Bulls.
I'm to say it, but
what'd you say?
I said, I know who I'm picking.
So go for it. I'm gonna let you go for it.
I'm picking Orlando. I think the team is just stronger. I think it's a stronger team. Like you said, though, Emil Forsberg does scare me, and it's one of the reasons I picked him in the last round is that this guy is like unlocked at this point in terms of what he's able to accomplish right now in his role. But I think overall, Orlando is, in my opinion, going back to something you said earlier, the stronger spine. I think they have the stronger team. And I think they have, at most positions, kind of a bit of a advantage. I also kind of like the fact that they're a little bit, they've had to kind of have their, I don't know. Just go.
I'm going Orlando.
Okay. Good pick.
Emil Forsberg is one of the best players left in these playoffs. I think he's the best player in this game. However, he was not great against New York City. He is still probably slightly injured if this entire season is any indication of that. And I think the likes of Wilder Cartagena, Cesar Araujo, and Robin Janssen will do enough centrally to circumvent anything that Forsberg will really do. And I don't have enough confidence in the pieces around Forsberg to get it done. Lewis Morgan kind of has a little bit of a knock, right? Dante Van Zier, he's been actually playing pretty well in these playoffs. He has a goal and an assist last game. But I don't have enough confidence that is a repeatable result for this attack. So I think if Orlando City's kind of central defense can handle Forsberg, and I think they can, I think that only just unlocks the opposite side of the field for Orlando, where Facundo Torres will run wild, Martin Ojeda will get some space, Ramiro Enrique, great at kind of just picking up the ball in spaces as well, and I think those three are going to give the Red Bulls back line a bunch of problems, because the Red Bulls back line even faced problems against New York City. New York City just didn't finish. The Orlando, a guy like Facundo Torres or Martin Ojeda will finish. And
they struggled to finish against Atlanta, but that's one of my reasons that I think they actually do win this game, because I think Atlanta at the end there was actually kind of a better defense than what we're seeing out of the Red Bulls.
Yeah, that is also completely fair. I think I agree with you. Quality of teams that they've faced again, and I'm going a current or what the end of the season, what the end of the season form crew, the New York City side, and then they did lose to Atlanta, right? Like that's a loss against a hot team, where Orlando beat Atlanta. Orlando beat a great defensive side in Charlotte. Like, I think maybe if this Orlando team gives Facundo Torres or Martin Ojeda a little bit too much space, they might be like, oh shit, like, this isn't what Charlotte was throwing at us. This isn't what Atlanta was throwing at us, and I personally think Red Bulls allowing as many goals as they've had recently. Obviously, I know they're coming off a shutout, but I still think New York City just didn't finish.
I found out where they lost the shots on goal by like 15.
Exactly.
I found out where the expected goals were what, like 2.5 or 3.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That, and they've scored 8 goals in their last 5 games, which is incredible. 2 of them have been wonder goals from Felipe Carballo. So those aren't also repeatable goals or repeatable actions that you wanna see from a team. So I'm going Orlando with you, Jason. I am kind of confidently trying to talk myself into Orlando.
I am more confident about this pick than I am about the Western Conference by quite a lot.
I disagree, but that is why these playoffs are going to be fun. That's why these conference finals are going to be fun. Jason, anything final that you want to say before we wrap things up and we ourselves enjoy these MLS Cup playoffs?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, I forgot about that. Thank you. Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. It is Thursday. It is Thanksgiving. Enjoy time with your family. Enjoy time with your friends. Have
Play
a drink
us at the dinner table.
Make sure you share this with grandma, with everyone who's coming over for Thanksgiving. Just put this on, hit play from episode 1. And by the time Thanksgiving's over, you might be at episode 100, right?
You'll be at episode 4. You won't even know who I am.
Exactly. Jason's not even around then. But no, thank you, Jason, for that reminder. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Jason, happy Thanksgiving to you. Enjoy some time off of work, enjoy some food, drink, and enjoy the MLS Cup playoffs. And we will talk with you guys next week.